many of us know that the past year, the Syrian regime, the Assad, specifically the Assad regime, has been suppressing and killing their own citizens. This isn't even, the question is not supposed to be, should we stop the violence? We all have moral responsibility. We have been working with the international community, especially our international allies. We created, with the leadership of the United States, we created the Friends of Syria. The Arab League came out with a resolution to be implemented. Recently, last week, Kofi Annan, the former United States Secretary General, came up with a plan. Here's the position of the United States. The Annan plan gives the Syrian regime more time to slaughter its citizens. It's very important and imperative that the United Nations Security Council take immediate action today to stop this violence. Thanks to Russia and China, this has been going on because they always threaten to veto it. And the United States is disgusted by the action of China and Russia. And that's our position. And with our allies, we call on everyone to take this immediate action against the Syrian regime who has been killing their own citizens. We have refugees, and this is actually a regional crisis because the whole Middle East is already unstable to an extent, and we have refugees flowing to different countries in that region. So this is a moral problem that has to be addressed as it is in its own hand. The United States position is that the United Nations Security Council have to take action today, and the United States is willing to lead this, even if we have to do what we did for Libya. I yield the remainder of my time.
The People's Republic of China respectfully disagrees with my honorable colleague from the United States. China is very concerned about what is going on in the region and what is going on in Syria. We call upon all parties to enter into talks and negotiations. What we are against is outside forces trying to bully the government of Syria into accepting an agreement. We feel that the government of Syria is a sovereign entity and therefore should not be subject to undue intervention by outside organizations, including this body. I feel that this body can play a role in mediation, in facilitating discussion. We call upon members of the Security Council to cease some of the language that's being used against the government of Syria, and we call upon the Secretary General to continue mediation efforts with the opposition and the government of Syria, and the government of China, the government of the People's Republic of China will do all we can to assist that as long as we maintain the sovereignty of Syria, which is still a member of the United Nations. Thank you very much.
Colombia deplores the violence in Syria. Syria had committed several human rights violations and should stop military action on its citizens. We asked Secretary General to put sanctions on Syria unless mediation efforts are reached to bring both parties in Syria to agree to stop violence and resolute to compromise.
Good day. It is an honor to be among my colleagues who are here from different nations. Good day. It is an honor for me to be among my colleagues from different nations. However, it feels as if that honor will go into disparity if we cannot come into agreement against the negative actions that Syria government has been taking against its citizens. France also agrees to deplore the violence in Syria. There is enough evidence to show that the crackdown death toll in Syria had exceeded 7,500 people, and that the country had committed many violations against human rights, as well as crime against humanity. We asked the Secretary General to continue mediation efforts in the line of bringing both parties together in Syria to stop the violence and work out a compromise. Be that as it may, if it is not possible, we do call upon all of us over here today to have sanctions against Syria.
Speaking on behalf of Germany, along with my fellow diplomats, I also agree that Syria is and has committed crimes against humanity and crimes of atrocity, and they should face reprehension. There have been throughout history, there have been crimes of atrocity, and there have been reprehension. There has been treatment, paid dues, undue. I'm sorry, I'm going to render the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Delegate.
Good evening. Her Majesty's government does not and cannot support the violence within the Syrian nation and its government. Her Majesty's government gives full support to the protesters and revolutionaries who are risking their lives for a change. And I expect for this council and its members to follow by and guide underneath the charter, which it says to sanction, to call on members to apply economic sanctions and other measures not involving the use of force to prevent or stop aggression. I also will call on this council to recommend the admission of new members to take military action against the aggressor also, because what's happening over there should not be accepted, and the way the Syrian government is being ran cannot go any further. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the Permanent Mission, the Model Security Council of the United Nations. On behalf of Guatemala, there's three specific points that I want to touch today. The first one, I want to really, I'm really appreciate for this opportunity, even though we are a very small country, about 40 million people living in Guatemala. It's the first time that we are members of the council, even though we have been one of the original 50 members. And I would like to encourage and promote that this the United Nations has to pay a lot of attention with all the members. It doesn't matter, it's a small countries like us, and for that matter, I think it's very important what we're doing here today. Regarding the situation that's happening in Syria, I would really appreciate, we want to thank the United States for having organized this debate. And the three specific points that I want to touch is the first point is in case of Latin America was unique, and I'm sure that each situation in the world is different. And what is happening in the Middle East is an example that what we are facing as the war is progressing. We are seeing countries, each country is very unique and specific. We cannot generalize what is so-called the Arab Spring. Syria is very unique, multicultural, multi-language country. And for that matter, we identify with them. We would like that you consider non-intervention. Their country has their agenda, and they try to model, and it's a very complex issue, and touches many vested interests generated for unseen consequence, and from time to time requires a change in course. The second point that we want to touch is that Syria is a multicultural country, especially with different societies inside of the country, and seeking for building a better nation with mutual respect and tolerance for other nations. And the last point that I want to touch on, and I think is considered the most important one, is the democratization process must respond to the aspirations and agreements to the people and nations and societies. They must be product of a sense of ownership to the nations and census. For that matter, it's not something that has to be imposed from outside. For all the members here, I would like you really pay attention that each nation is sovereign, and they have their officials been elected in a democratic process. So I would like to consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having India here today. India does not support the violence that is going on in Syria, and I don't believe that the United Nations should intervene, but I think we should make suggestions in order to make to make Syria better. And violence is a really serious issue, and we need to take care of that because we are human beings, and I don't know, there's somebody that needs to be saved, and I think we should all get together and save those people, because if there's something else going on in India or anybody else's country, we want somebody to look out for us. So I feel like we should intervene or just make suggestions. Thanks.
All right, good afternoon. Morocco, thanks you for having us here. The Kingdom of Morocco will not support the Syrian government. We oppose any military action against the protesters or the Syrian people. We are in favor of finding a peaceful democratic solution that will not involve any further military action. We, as the Kingdom, have already submitted a draft resolution demanding the immediate end of all human rights violations in Syria. This draft was aborted because of the Sino-Russian veto. This draft was also rejected by the Arab League. Nonetheless, there will be further pressure put on Syria's regime to end the violence. Military intervention is unacceptable, as it includes negative consequences that will affect the whole region. The Syrian conflict